It's really hard to be unique with it, and it's one of those things where you're better off just doing tech at the drop. Like, that's just that. I'm telling you guys, everybody, if you're watching this and if you're competing, flails and whips at the drop isn't gonna give you the dub. All right, it's not. It's just not. The Gloving Academy Discord is now open to the public. Here you can share light shows and ask to lab with other glovers. We've got a great community dedicated to improving. This is the only place in gloving where you can get rewarded with free gloving gear just by being active and participating in public events happening every month. We've even got exclusive events available for Hyperstrobe members, from workshops to meeting other top-level glovers, as well as weekly educational content. We've got a growing library of resources available no matter what skill level you are, and if you would like for me to do a frame-by-frame video of your light show, you can submit your video on the Discord. This thing's only going to get bigger and better from here, so follow the link in the description to join. Yo, what is up everyone, and welcome to another episode of Frame by Frame. In today's video, we're going to be looking at ALTOH, and ALTOH, he requested we do a level 4, and what a level 4 is, basically, I'm going to be watching his light show and pretty much do a scorecard on it. And the scorecard we're going to be using is called the SGS. This is the Standard Gloving Scorecard 2023 edition. This is the same scorecard that was used at UGC. Christian and I and other couple of glovers, shout outs to people like I Am Hypno and Genghis Wrath, they helped cultivate this scorecard and, you know, really kind of helped me refine it. It's a very simplistic scorecard, and you could find the scorecard on the Gloving Academy Discord. Here it is, the SGS, and it's very simple. It talks about things in a light show that are pretty objective, and it's very simple, not convoluted with a bunch of different categories that overlap. And so we have things like concepts, execution, musicality, and dynamics. And yeah, I'm not gonna go over the scorecard in this video, but if you want to check it out, it's in the Gloving Academy Discord on the resource page. But yeah, we're gonna be scoring ALTOH's show utilizing this scorecard. So let's go ahead and take a look. This is the end station. I love how he just walked in the frame, because you gotta press record, walk away, and then walk into the frame. Cool pacing at the beginning, you know, not really rushing it in terms of complexity at the beginning. I notice his set's very blinky. Right, and music is picking up right here. I like that hit the ground lyricality, hit down move. It's a really clean show. I do think that there's a little bit of a speed control issue, just a little bit. Alright, let's see what his drop looks like. Okay. Pretty standard whips at the drop here. I feel like his set is really blinky to see those trails though. And I love how he's going into the king tuts there. I love the liquid into more king tutting there, extending his combo more. I felt like when he was going into his tuts there, it was a little bit slower, not really capturing the music there. Okay, it slows down here. I want to see that slow down. See, I think he was a little late there. A very flowy show. A very flow techy vibe. And I know what I'm supposed to do. Can't get myself away. I like the liquid, pretty clean. I don't think it's very high value though. Okay, we're at the build-up again. What does he do? He's committing to these tech sequences at the build-up. Not sure if I agree with this for the pacing aspect. It's a lot of quick moves and transition into flowier moves. So we're in that tech sequence here. What? Let's see what he does at the drop again. I hope it's not whips again. Damn, the wall of lights, pretty OG, pretty OG. Alright, and we go into King Tut's at the drop. Perfect timing. But he's out of it again. Okay, a little bit of a cluster sequence there. Really out. Again, he's out of it. Really quick. We're about at the ending here. Let's see how he ends it. Pretty standard ending. I thought that, you know, one of the things that really stood out to me obviously was his flow in the show. You could tell he has a lot of he likes that fluider, more type movements. I did notice that he was very in and out of concepts rather quickly, besides his, I guess, his king tutting sequence and I guess a little bit of those flow sequences there. So yeah, let's go take a look deeper in what he does. So again, the intro, I really love the intro because he's not really rushing it. I feel like this is something that a lot of older Glovers do. You know, just setting up the vibe, you know, setting the tone of the show, whether it be slow and coming here to the middle of the lens and then you working the sides, you know. To me, it's very high value in terms of musicality, in terms of storytelling, not really rushing it at the very get-go, because the number one thing that you do not want to do at the start of your show is doing your tech sequences off the bat, because guarantee you're gonna get a 1 if you do that. So do not do tech at the beginning, guys. I'm telling you. So I have no problems with this intro right here. I do notice that he likes to work within this orbital grid here. And, you know, thinking back to the show, he utilizes this orbital grid pretty much throughout the entirety of the show. Which is good, but also bad at the same time, because he's not really maneuvering around the grid with his tech sequences, right? It doesn't really showcase it doesn't showcase a higher understanding of the grid when you could be utilizing things like isolation points or, you know, concepts like tutting or finger tutting, which in my opinion are always gonna be in the meta, right? Even like something as simple as like a simple dial sequence like that, isolation, there was not really any illusion of the grid portrayed in the show, and that will directly impact his concept level, right, on the scorecard, which complexity is under. So I want that to be kind of like a thing to pay attention to, right? Nice digit roll here. Let's check his digit rolls. So we're starting from that side, and he perfectly does it. His digit rolls are really clean. And this is one of the tough things, because he does have a blinkier set. It's kind of a double-edged sword. That looked really clean on the digit roll, right? But because it's blinkier, it might have actually hide some of the imperfections, right? Which is technically kind of like a good thing, right? If it's blinkier, there's more loss of information, so you can't really tell if it was clean or not. But on the flip side, that's the thing, is you can't really tell if it's clean or not, right? That, and if you were to go too fast, then you can't really prove that it's clean. For example, like, I know that his whips looked really clean, but in reality, were they really clean? And that's something you kind of have to consider, and ultimately why I feel like, you know, chips with, like, let's say accelerometers play a really, you know, it gives you kind of like an upper edge, or just simply going into a more strobier mode might give you Not just maybe an advantage in like the competition, but just an advantage in improving in general, so you can check yourself if you're clean. It's interesting because in the lyrics I hear something about slowing down, and he doesn't really use those lyrics in the show. He actually kind of goes a little bit faster. Like, I feel like because he did that hit the ground move, like he's literally pointing down. Lyricality is one of those things where you commit or you don't commit, in my opinion. And I feel like it's just gonna be ultimately stronger for his musicality card if he were to just use the lyrics throughout the whole time, right? Not just like just hitting one part. I mean, I don't know what you think about that. Maybe that's cap. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Let's look at this move here. So we go into like a little platform-esque move. I think it's interesting. You can't really tell, but he has his pinky here up in this digit, okay? But he had it earlier. Or is he doing a finger roll actually? He's doing a finger roll down into it. But the thing is, I feel like it's there for so long that it feels like he's gonna use it. But he kind of just flattens it out and then doesn't use it. You see how his pinky there is still up? Or rather, the form isn't clean, I guess. Maybe that's just me being super nitpicky. Okay, really small detail here, okay? Because he is more of a floatier type Glover, watch this. Pay attention to this hand as he's doing this move, okay? This hand on the right. You saw that? It's super small. Look at this. Okay? Watch how this hand is floating. It's slowly lingering, right? And this is the, I guess, the disadvantage, I guess, to having more of that flowier type of show, is because when you start incorporating more technical things, right, then you start to become off the grid, right? Now you could argue that maybe just that one moment could play into your precision card in the precision score, right? Because it's not technically executed properly with the grid. You could argue that, right? And that's one of the tough things, man. It really depends on your judge at the end of the day, if whether or not they consider that an executional error or not, right? But the thing about me is like, okay, if you can argue it, then so be it, right? I think that his pacing is really good for this show. I just think that it kind of falls apart when he goes into like these smaller tech sequences and kind of goes around them. You know, which I always preach about teasing sequences earlier in the beginning, but I just feel like the way that he teased these sequences may not have been impactful enough. Rather, it kind of looked like he had a little bit of something and was just out of it, but not necessarily teasing it, if that makes sense. Because that's a common thing throughout the entirety of the show, is that he's really in and out. There's not really an extra layer of the tools that he's showing. There's not an extra layer of the concepts that he's doing when he presents them. So he really has to work on committing to the sequences. And I know we're at the very beginning, I'm talking about later, but he needs to work on committing to the sequences to add on more to that complexity level, and possibly to add on to that precision part of the scorecard, right? So let's listen to the music. You hear how the song, like, it comes up, it's like one last time, and the vocals like get bigger, right? I feel like to take your light shows to the next level, you really need to emphasize those parts of the song. Like, it is okay to just stop the moves and to just like ooze with showmanship, or to do something, because I feel like committing to the smaller moves when the song comes up is maybe perhaps not the best musicality. Okay, I really love his build up to drop here because I feel like that's what newer gen covers need to do, is that, you know, there's this repetitive, you know, in build-ups, there's this repetitive sound that's always happening, right? And I feel like the way that he, the moves that he chose to do in that part was perfect. Like, look at this. Boom! Right? Perfect, in my opinion. And, you know, whips at the drop for a competition, it's also kind of like a double-edged sword as well, because I feel like just whips at the drop, in my honest opinion, I just feel like it's very overplayed. It really only hits the musicality aspect of the scorecard. And what you might hear from me a lot of the times when looking at shows is I'll use the term value, right? High value. And what I mean by that is, are you doing things at specific parts of the song that are hitting multiple aspects at the same time, right? And in my opinion, at the drop, yes, whips are perfect for, you know, in terms of musicality, maybe in terms of precision, because your whips are clean, sure. But I am a big advocate for tech at the drop, because it kind of hits everything all at once, right? Because you hit the conceptual aspect of the scorecard when you do tech at the drop, because your complexity level is up. If you think about storytelling in this complexity level, in terms of storytelling, how much bigger the complexity gets during the drop, it's like, okay, you're more complex at the drop. You're hitting musicality as well, and you're hitting dynamics, and you're hitting precision. It's just, to me, unless you're doing materia level flails or whips, then you're not hitting all the aspects of the scorecard at the drop. And I think, honestly, whips at the drop is, in my honest opinion, kind of a low value thing to do at the drop, right? Because it's so overplayed, it's really hard to be unique with it, and it's one of those things where you're better off just doing tech at the drop. Like, that's just that. I'm telling you guys, everybody, if you're watching this and if you're competing, flails and whips at the drop isn't gonna give you the dub. All right, it's not. It's just not. Okay, I love when he does tutting here, because it shows a level of complexity now at the highest level in the song, right? So let's take a look at his king tutting. So again, so pay attention, okay? So we can already see that his hand movement here, right? It's floating already. He's moving both hands at the same time in this movement. He's got this hand right here, and then he's got this hand moving at the same time, okay? And then so now his grid work is lacking, right? So we come into this form, right? We come into this form here. Clean angle. This is perfect. This moment is clean. Perfect right here. But he's moving both hands at the same time, right? It's a lot of floating, and look at his body. His body is moving a lot, so you don't get that illusion of grid work there. He needs to, you know, if he's going fast, you isolate your hand. Notice how the grid work is just so much better when you isolate your hand like that. So that's the thing. That's the balance, right? Is when you're a floyer type of glover, you need to learn how to be static when you need to, if you're going to implement things like king tutting or tutting. But, you know, vice versa. If you're a technical glover, you got to know when to flow. You got to know when to move your body. So really everything is, you know, reason, right? And so I could argue that his grid work is lacking because he's moving his body too much. Small minor detail. I know a lot of glovers do this. Myself, I am guilty of this. But when you do the king tutting angle, stuff like this could bite you in the butt. It could bite you in the butt. It's the difference between a 4 and a 5 on execution, right? Did you mean to do this? Is this a bad habit, right? Having your fingers open, you maybe want to close this because it might play into your scorecard. And you know, I do this all the time. So a fix that I do is I am mentally aware of it. So I might do something where, like, okay, if I'm gonna be doing a king tut, right, and I use it. I actually been using it as part of my arsenal when I'm doing my king tutting, where like I'll do something like that, right? I'll close it to do cause and effect, and then like I'll keep it open and I'll like use it like that. So really, you have to be aware of your weaknesses, and use that for your advantage. And you know, that might help you create a new style or a new move that only you yourself can discover, right? His grid work there was not bad. This grid work right here, like this sequence, so he has it. Like that's sick. He's gotta do more of that all the time. Minor. Really minor. You guys see it? Here we go. That finger there. Very minor thing. Okay, let's see what he does here. You see how there's a speed control issue when he's getting into his finger tutting there, or his digits, his micro movements there. There's a vast difference with his flow while doing that compared to obviously his whips and liquid, right? Let's take a look at that one more time. Here we go into, like, I feel like logically this doesn't make sense, right? Because we go into this form, right? And we're here. We're at this angle here, and it kind of looks like he's picking up this finger, right, with his finger back here. So it looks like he's doing something a little like this, where he's like dragging it. It's not really aligned properly, so like it's not really refined, right? I'm questioning whether or not where he picked up and did that digit. So he'll do the right there, like, and he'll just pick it up. He'll just drag it along. There's no point of contact. I guess maybe the point of contact's on this middle finger in the back, but he kind of just drags it along. But actually, he doesn't even drag it. He moves it before the actual digit. You see what I'm saying? Like, look, he moves his backhand before the thing is even digiting. So it's like he's doing, like, in slow motion, he's doing something like this, right? Versus this. Or maybe he should have that point of contact with the pointer in the middle and you know, actually guide it, or like guide it in like that. That makes more sense than that or that. You know what I'm saying? Interesting. Huh. There's a brief moment where he has this point of contact here with his middle finger and the palm, where I feel like it should stick there. It should stick there if he lands. But the moment he lands with this finger on here, I'm gonna change my pen to blue. The moment he lands this finger on that finger, he loses this point of contact. So the isolation point, or rather, I don't know if it's, I guess the hinge, I guess, is not refined, right? He's kind of skipping that corner. Really small detail. It's like literally a frame or two where it's not connected. But that's the thing. That's the thing, guys. Moments like this, if that's throughout the whole show, there's something about it where it's not clearly defined, right? You need a stick. You need that stick in there to capture that picture, that moment of just pure straightness. And then you go, and then you stick there, and then you transition. You stick, and then you transition. You stick, and then you transition, right? Interesting. So he has this. He'll do like this. What is this? He'll do an isolation point here, and then he'll just release this. Okay, so I know what Alto needs to do. He needs to just commit on the point, and when he does stuff like this, or when he does stuff like this, he needs to keep that point on top. He needs to commit to it. A lot of the times, he's like going into the tech forms, right? He's going into the tech forms, and then he's just releasing it. He's exploding because he's a flowier Glover, which is cool stylistically, but it's just, I want to see a little bit more commitment to those tech sequences, because now it's really playing into your complexity level. In my head, when I automatically see that, I feel like, you know, you can't get higher than a 3 when you see stuff like that. But, you know, I will commend you on the musicality and pacing aspect, because, yeah, I feel like you really captured this show, like, or well, you really captured the essence of this song, I feel like. And again, we're doing that orbit grid. It's a lot of orbit grid, right? So what about like the orbit grid at the top, right? You gotta play with your grid. We're doing this throughout the entirety of this show. It can get boring when you do it like a bunch of times, right? So you gotta play with your pathing. You have to be interactive with the audience and keep them guessing, because that's ultimately what makes a show entertaining. And I know what I'm supposed to. Oh, I love that. Did you see that? Oh. That's nice flow. Look at this brief moment when he does this. He does this thing where he does this, and he's like jittering it. Oh, I love that. Let's watch that. And I know what I'm supposed to. Look at this hand. The hand on the left. Oh, that is great speed control. He's gotta have that with everything else. Like, that was my favorite part of the show so far, because it's like, oh man, that to me is a lot. I like that. Look at that. I think that's really the difference in Alto's show. I feel like that's the defining thing. I think that's really different from his shows than the rest, is he'll do like these bigger movements, and it's like a whip, not really a whip, but like he'll like launch it and it'll like float a little bit, and I feel like it's just one of those moments where floating is good. Let's watch this sequence. So he'll like do this liquid, right, and then he'll like launch it up, and then he'll just float there. That's really cool. I like that. Okay, let's see. Okay, really tough. This is tough. Like, because we got this form here. I don't know exactly what he's doing there, but he kind of just puts his finger on that. I don't even know what he's doing there, but kind of just puts it there and kind of does something with it. Interesting. Or I think Alto really needs to work on his logic on his shows, because let's really take a look at this. Okay, so first of all, this form is really weird, and he kind of just places it on like the inside of the knuckle, which doesn't quite look as pleasing in my opinion. It's interesting how he has like these fingers on, like, it's doing a finger roll, but he chooses this finger to hinge across, and then he traces over. But look at this. His pathing looks like it wants to be on this line of the finger here, but he goes left of screen, then like forward where this middle finger is, right? Let's watch this small moment. Right, it's not aligned. So we need to be a little bit more cognizant on the lines that we're utilizing in the show, right? So it's like, okay, you would think that he would do something like this, but he's going like that. He's going to the side and then like wave to, so there's got to be a stick a direct, like this movement where it's direct, right? And then go, because it kind of just looks like he's skipping corners a bit. Okay, yeah, see, this is a moment in the show where the lights, it becomes very distracting to see what exactly he's doing. Cause look at that, every time I'm going frame by frame, the lights are off. So, okay, he does a wave tut. Interesting way to wave tut, by the way. He'll have an open palm and then wave tut like this. You don't see this often. This might be good. This might be something. I like it because it gives you an opportunity to do like a finger roll or something. Okay, take a look at this. So we have that point of contact from these fingers, right? But there's two fingers that land on one, and then at this point, he's kind of just like he's kind of just winging it at this point, right? It's not a clean transition there, or not a clean trace there, rather. It's kind of just maneuvering into the next form here. So I think there's a lot of moving before the move even finishes. Another like thing that he can do to just take it to the next level is when the drop hits like this, like go harder, right? Because it's the second drop, you need to bring that intensity up just a little bit more, to contrast it from your first drop, right? And I felt like he was kind of careful here while doing the king tut, just a little careful. A lot of 2D tuts. Did he use 3D tuts here? A lot of 2D tuts. I don't think I remember seeing 3D tuts. I like the cluster. That was the only cluster we got. Okay. Pretty... It's a pretty basic 6-point, but it's too much movement during the actual cluster, right? Because we don't really we have this 3 line and this row, I guess, and then there's technically a row up here. But I don't think he meant to do that. And there's not really any micro grid work here. He's kind of just doing it in the floor motion, right? Which I think it does bite him in the butt during this part. We figured out, like, okay, he's very in and out, and we could clearly see that there's a lot of skipping corners, and that, you know, we could really just dish out more connections. I feel like if we were to just stay more in the connection and really lab on, like, okay, what can I do from here, what can I do from here, is really understanding that micro level, right? But other than that, I thought the flow was really good. I thought that I guess the power was really good in that show. So let's go ahead and now score this show. So concepts, right? So when we look at the concept category, I thought that there was a lot of moves that could have been really worked on, and that there was a lot of repetitive movements within his tech, and I don't really think he really understood the microgrid level of things. You know, and I think in terms of originality, there was very, you know, light sprinkles of originality. So I think I would have to give ALTOH a 2 in concepts, because there was a little bit of variation and there was like 1 or 2 really unique aspects to the show. But in terms of pushing the envelope and in terms of innovation, keep in mind we're scoring based off the scorecard, right? So this is throughout the entirety of gloving, right? There wasn't really anything that was really pushing the envelope. So yeah, we're gonna have to go with a 2 in terms of concepts. Now for dynamics, for a lot of people who don't know what dynamics is, it's about what makes a show dynamic in terms of your space, in terms of your speed, in terms of like your reason, right? And so I felt like he was utilizing the orbit grid pretty well. There's really no problems with that. I felt like there was just like a layer where he was missing, where he could utilize the grid a little bit more, right? He's he's not by any means like a grid master, I guess you can say, but he does like to use a lot of his space. Now, whether or not he used that space effectively, I'm not quite sure. And you know, I think though that there was moments in his show that were really impactful, whether it be with the speed, like when he was doing that jitteriness with the liquid for that one time, and that he wasn't static by any means. And so therefore I'm gonna have to give him a 3 for dynamics. In terms of execution, you know, we saw a lot of execution errors. The highlight of his execution was definitely during his flow. When he was in his flow, no qualms with it. Absolutely beautiful flow. But, you know, I just can't give up seeing a lot of those execution errors, whether or not be on the grid, whether or not be through his logic. So I'm going to have to give him a 2 for execution. And for musicality, you know, I thought he captured the music pretty well. I thought there were some moments where it could have just been a little better, just a little better, but I thought that his musicality was strong. For me, it's just nitpicky at that point of where I wanted to see the musicality better, but really, I think I would have to give him a 3 for musicality, because even though I thought that he really understood the music, there was stuff like committing to the lyricality. There was stuff like, okay, doing the drop, you know, taking the drop a little bit higher the second time, where he did whips and drops. Oh, sorry, he did whips and tutting in the first drop, and then at the second drop he still went back to tutting, right? I wanted to see an extra layer of complexity with the musicality, in order to get like a 4 or a 5. So a 3 on musicality, a 10 on this scorecard. And yeah, that is a little rough, but you know what, I feel like it is important to go over exactly what he did in order for ALTOH to get, you know, in order for ALTOH to improve. So really, the notes that I would include in this show, right, is, you know, we gotta start working on our precision, on our grid work, to really understand that micro tech. I feel like the flow aspect is really strong. I don't think we have to focus too much on the flowier aspect of the shows right now, but focus on the grid work, focus on the isolations, focus on the logic on your show. Then, oh man, now we can start talking about getting a 3 or 4 on the scorecard. The next thing that I could recommend is go strobier sets, not blinkier sets, strobier sets, to really check yourself. Strobe is a mode that keeps you accountable, right? Or even dots. It keeps you accountable to knowing how your tech works within the trails, not just your flow working within the trails, right? Because it's easy to make flow work within trails, but you gotta have that stick, and a good way to see that stick is not through blinkier sets, but through strobier sets. So I would recommend doing strobe for like a good month or 2 and see where you go from there. It is important to, you know, have that static and rigid movement with your flow, and then add that flowier moves to your flow, right? Having a balance is key. Having good balance is key. And this one's a weird one, but I would say it was interesting to see a lot of that orbit grid within the flowier moments of the show, but during tutting it was very 2D. So why not combine that orbital grid with your tutting, right? Now you're utilizing tools that you have and combining them to create a style that works for you. So I want to see more 3D tutting and utilization of that orbit grid with the 3D tutting. And I think that's the end, guys. ALTOH, you have such beautiful flow, brother. Just keep working on your micro grid level and more of your tech, because in a competition, I feel like just having fundamentally sound tech is really where the game is at, right? Competitions are all about, you know, who threw the best light show, but it's also about pushing the envelope, right? So you got to get your head in the game in terms of what is the meta right now. You know, I hate to use that word, low key, the meta in gloving, but it is what it is. There is a meta to competing, and your utilization of tech and how unique you are in terms of tech, I think is really what truly prevails in the end. So other than that, man, I thought you did an amazing job. I think that as an overall light show, you did an amazing job. But other than that, I really hope this video helps everybody. If you're looking for wipes, battery skins, or any other gloving accessories, head on over to glow-leds.com and don't forget to use my code Aloha Nation for 10% off. Keep grinding and keep on improving, and stick around for more Gloving Academy content. Peace.